Welcome everybody. We are going to be starting the meeting probably about 3 minutes past 2. We want to allow time, obviously, for people to arrive and settle in, and we'll start at about 3 minutes past 2. We had over 200 people registered for the forum this afternoon. We are up to just approaching 70 in the meeting at the moment, so we'll allow more time for people to join, and we'll be starting in a couple of minutes' time. We're up to 90 people out of the 200 or so who've registered so far. The meeting is being recorded, so those unable to attend or those who aren't able to attend the whole meeting will be able to view the recording afterwards. We'll also be sharing the presentation and a note about the call afterwards. It's just gone 3 minutes past 2, and I suggest we make a start.
Okay, thanks very much, Paul. So hello, everyone. We are really pleased that you've been able to attend. It's going to be an hour long, the briefing, with a Q&A after each of the major items. We are recording the forum, as Paul says, so that will be circulated after the meeting. And the slides will also be shared after the meeting. There are links within the slides as well. So that will hopefully help you post the meeting to follow up on some of the things that you'll have been interested in. If you could ask questions via the Q&A, which you should see on the top of your screen, and then raise any other business in the chat, that would be superb. We will respond in a note after the meeting to any of the questions that we haven't had time to answer in the forum. What I would like to emphasise is that clearly in an hour there's a lot to cover, so it is just going to be a summary of the various activities that we've been doing over the past year. What we'd like you to do, if you could please, is to tell us what you would like to hear of in more detail, because what we'll do then is to follow up with specific webinars on the topics that you're asking us to talk about in more detail. So I think if that's okay, I shall move on to really summarise the agenda here. As I say, there's a Q&A opportunity after each main item, so we will pause. Paul will manage that process to see what questions have been coming up. I'll be giving you a very brief update on nima, what's been happening over the past year, but also then on the Information Management Initiative, which will also include a brief summary of what's happening with the UK BIM framework. We'll take a look across the whole of the nima network and what's happening over the network. And then Paul will tell you about the communications and events which are coming up. As I say, there will be any other business, so there is anything that you wish to bring up in any other business, please do tell us in the chat. Okay. So a brief update then on nima. So over 2024, we've really been focusing on firmly establishing nima as an independent entity. You may be aware that previously we sat within Syria, who helped us enormously with the administration side. And so we've been taking the time over this last year to set ourselves up as an independent entity. That's involved expanding the management group as well. So that's really the core of myself as chair and a number of vice chairs, plus our magnificent volunteers. We could not do what we do without the huge voluntary effort that is put in. So I'd really like to thank everybody who's on the call who has helped us. And I will mention a few specific people as we go through the slides as well. We're overseen by the non-exec. So we've got that added governance. Those non-exec we meet with, I meet with every month to report on proceedings, particularly on the finance. But what I'm really grateful for is that we've also then been developing our back office, and we've got superb help there through, for instance, Sam Hardy and John Hall, who work so hard in the background, along with Lucia Roberto and Stephen Holmes from a finance perspective. That's really helped us keeping much clearer on where we're at. And we've got the IT platform set up with, as you can see here, Teams, CRM using Salesforce. So what we're hoping to do now is really look at the resources we've got through volunteers, what are the activities we want to be really focused on, and the processes that we need to put into place during 2025 and beyond. There will be more announcements coming over this next few months. So do come along on the 22nd of May for the forum, where we'll be telling you some of the big steps that are being taken. So we're really starting to develop our strategy, and that's aligned really with the Information Management Initiative, which I'll come to in a moment. So where we're at with this is the Information Management Initiative is something that is being run jointly between nima and the Construction Leadership Council. It's an industry-led but government-supported programme to progressively transform information management practices across the built and the natural environment. It's been developed with a really dedicated task group from late 2023, with a lot of consultation going on in the background, really trying to ensure that we understand the very wide stakeholders across the built and natural environment, and being as inclusive as we possibly can be. We want to lower the bar, if you like, for people to feel that they can get more confident about understanding information management and really getting to grips with what that can mean specifically to them. We launched at the virtual conference on the 7th of November, and we've been promoting the IM initiative through the web, a PR and events programme, and that will be really moving at pace with Paul and Mary Grieve managing that process going forward. We've created a process to onboard sponsors who are contributing either financially or through resources, and signatories who are wanting to get on board and actually move through the process of signing up to the call for action, for agreeing to the high-level principles of a sector-wide directive, and then looking at what that means for them internally from an organisation perspective, right down to team and individual level. So being very specific on the rules which they need to be following. And then you'll see at the top there, we've also created the IMI branding as well. So that's being unveiled today. Another thing which has been happening is that there's been the briefings at Digital Construction North, London Build, Tech Fest, One Spatial Conference, the IM for Public Sector Group, BIM for Rail, the IGBP just recently in Manchester, and next week on the 5th of March at Future Build in London. Paul has been really helpful in being able to develop FAQs, and that's recently been added to the nima website. So the link to where you can find out much more about the Information Management Initiative is on this slide. Giving you an idea of the programme and where we've got to, we've had a really intensive phase during December 2023 through to the autumn and the launch in November, where we've really tried to look at what's involved with stakeholder engagement, what the approach should be, getting a high-level implementation plan, and then really looking at that comms campaign. So we've had a phase 1 development team. What we're doing now is developing the high-level plan, getting the phase 2 teams together, and really focusing on what are the activities, what needs to be supported through funding, and how we can really get volunteers on board who are really keen to help on this. So what do our early IMI sponsors and signatories look like? So these are our founding sponsors. We're hugely grateful to them for coming forward. So we've got British Standards Institution and obviously nima jointly running the UK BIM framework, as is at the moment. But we've also got the CLC backing this, and we've got Atkins Realis, Autodesk, Beamer and Mortar all come on board as sponsors to help us along with Data Clan. So some of these people also have been really helpful in the phase 1 and being involved in the task group. Then we've got the signatories, and I won't go through the whole list here, but we're really pleased to have these people coming on, these organisations coming on board in that early phase. But we are very much encouraging more organisations going forward. So what are the next steps? So we're refreshing the task group. I'll be meeting with the task group in the next week. But we also want to, this was for the IM initiative task group, and then to discuss with the task group, well, how should we form within the phase 2? And part of what we want to work at is we've got the volunteers within nima and how actually to really bring those two groups together, focusing specifically on activities, on really being clear on what needs to be delivered and when. Clearly, we need to engage both the sponsors helping us to drive this, but then the signatories themselves. And from a signatories point of view, it really does need to be right the way across industry. It should be right down to self-employed SMEs, as well as the bigger organisations as well. And we're really keen to get clients, the big consultancies and contractors on board so that they can be really helping to say, this is important, we're really brought into this, let's drive forward now. I'll come along to our affiliated organisations as well in a moment, but we are really hoping that the institutions and the trade associations will also say that they want to really be engaging with their members to say, this is important that you take a look at this and start getting involved in responding to the call for action. We're busy identifying projects for the initiative, for instance, change management, skills, standard information approach. And what we want to be doing is to exploring what you want, what the industry, the wider industry wants and needs to see. So we'll be exploring who wants to back particular projects, who wants to actually get involved with those projects. It's important we maintain the PR and the events. So there is a big focus at the moment on Digital Construction Week on the 4th and the 5th of June. What will be happening as we move towards Digital Construction Week is we're going to be transitioning the UK BIM framework to the IMI framework. And that is still based on the ISO 19650, but we are looking at what else it needs to pull in so that it is inclusive of facilities management, of asset management, and other areas too. So I'll cover that briefly before we go on to our Q&A for this section. I have to make a big thank you to the UK BIM framework team. So Sarah Davidson and David Churcher are the editors, along with me helping where I can in developing the framework content. But we've also got Dan Rossiter and Mo Shanna. So Dan has been helping me in chairing the framework steering group and the working group as well. And Mo has been extremely helpful to us now in moving next steps with the website. And you will hopefully have seen the AI video campaign, which has boosted the traffic by some 10% now to the framework and added 270 new followers for the framework on LinkedIn. So we're really keen to be able to explain why the framework is important and foundational to the IM initiative. So there will be much more going on. We'll be expanding and including additional resources. But I think one things I would like to just say is that we are conscious that for a lot of the industry, they're not necessarily bought into 19650. They're not yet ready to fully commit to them. So we want to get some resources on the IMI area of the NEMA website, which are resources which aren't built within the ISO 19650 framework, but are really there to help people progress in understanding and then implementing better information management. From the point of view of improving the UK BIM framework itself, some of you will be aware that ISO 19650 Part 6 has been published, and there'll be guidance in the late spring. There is a review ongoing with ISO 19650. There's going to be a meeting in Paris shortly of the working group. We will be moving to a draft information standard, which will be going out for public consultation. I would be anticipating end of October, November time. So I'm really fascinated, interested in seeing the comments which are already coming forward, which I think will improve the 19650, which will simplify it, will certainly address some of the feedback that we've been hearing from yourselves in the UK, but also globally as well. So it's exciting stuff at the moment, but I certainly wouldn't want people to panic. I think what you'll see is that it's improvements, which will be reflected then within the IM initiative and the framework itself. So yes, thank you to everyone involved in the framework, because there is also then a very extensive volunteer network. Some of you I know are listening, who have been reviewing and testing the guidance and helping us to improve that guidance going forward. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just pause for a moment to see whether you would like to raise any questions. So I'll hand over, if I could, to you, Paul, to manage that. What I would say is that, as you can see here, there's links to the summary document, which will explain to you in more detail if you're not aware what the IM initiative is, what the process is for getting on board, and the overarching principles. There's also the FAQs link there, and then links to how you can become a sponsor or how you can become a signatory. So if you could post questions in the chat, if there's time, we will also take some live questions, but please do keep the questions quite punchy. If we have time at the end of the forum, we may take further initiative questions but we'll certainly respond in a note after if we can't cover them all. So Paul, over to yourself.
The first question came in from Andy Bootle, and we're kind of dealing with it with what's on the screen. How do you become a signatory organisation? Perhaps you'd just like to walk people through that process, Anne?
Yes, of course. So what we're doing as far as a signatory is concerned, if you go onto the IMI page on the nima website, it will take you to a form. It explains to you what are the principles that you need to sign up to and as a first step for the call for action. And then it does need to be a C-suite of that organisation who signs that. So what we want is for the organisation at top level to be committing. That first step of responding to the call for action is, we've tried to do it so that actually it is inclusive and it's a simple thing for to do. So all the commitment is at the moment is that the organisation supports and recognises the importance of having this initiative, industry-led, with the hope that the government will then follow through and say, yeah, we need to be refreshing the mandate. But otherwise, the principles there are to understand why information management is important. So it's not actually having to understand the what, it's just understanding the importance of it. Those are set out clearly, as I say, on the nima website. So do go and check that out. But that is what happens in that first step. There are then subsequent steps which an organisation can move forward to, but it does mean that, for instance, finance institutions, insurance institutions could be saying, actually, we support this call for action. We acknowledge that it's really important that the built and natural environment improve the way that they're managing their information, and therefore they will be encouraging their stakeholders to get behind it. But they don't go any further than that because they aren't actually involved in the processes around managing information. There's then the next step of the directive, which is based on principles, for instance, from the infrastructure client group and their data and digital principles, which again are reflecting what's within, for instance, 19650, but not yet actually referencing the 19650 rules. Once they've signed up to that, they may then say that, okay, we're ready to issue an internal mandate, which it then identifies the very specific rules that are required for their teams and their individuals. And that rules on the UK BIM framework as is at the moment. So hopefully that answers, Andy, quite a long-winded answer actually, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I think it also answers a question that was raised by Phil Simpson. I've shared a link in the Q&A to the relevant section of the nima website. There is a kind of related question from Gordon McIntyre asking, can a signature company use the nima logo in footers of company emails? I think this is where the logo, the new Information Management Initiative logo comes in, I think, Anne.
Yes, indeed. So we are looking at essentially at badges, which you can use. So the IM initiative logo and actually identifying a signatory, sponsor, etc. So that is in hand at the moment. It's a great question. Thank you for that. I think we'll be looking to update on the website so that you can see what you can use going forward once you're onboarded. We are going to be meeting with the founding sponsors and signatories over the next week or so before I go on a long distance walk, which I'll come to at the end of the meeting. So I will be meeting with the founding sponsors and signatories over the next week or so to get them onboarded and to discuss next steps with them. So we will be looking after each organisation as they come on board and to explain those next steps.
Jessica Seddon asks, are CIBSE aware of and able to help promote nima and the IMI within the building services discipline? I think this touches on the point you raised about engaging with industry organisations.
Yeah, so We've had some initial conversations with some at CIBSE, but it's a conversation that needs to continue. If there's anyone on the call who would like to help on that, that would be excellent. Certainly from a Construction Leadership Council, CIBSE, for instance, is enrolled, so is aware, and it's just a question of, to some extent, us ourselves as nima, who are managing the initiative, along with the Atkins Realis PMO, of saying, right, okay, this is what we need now, onboarding the founding signatories and sponsors, but also reaching out and encouraging others as well. So CIBSE is certainly one of the organisations we would love to get on board shortly.
Pam Bandal asks, if you are a patron technology group member, Bazooki member, do you not automatically become a member supporter of the IMI?
So no, but we would certainly want you to. So what we'd be doing, and Pam, thank you for raising it, we need to, don't we, to actually reach out to say the IMI is launched now. We would imagine that it's goes without saying that you would want to be a signatory, and it would be simply a question of submitting the form with your C-suite having signed that form. So thank you for raising that, Pam.
Sam? Jonathan Hallam asks, have public sector organisations been approached?
Yes, so you probably wouldn't have recognised it. There is an information management for public sector group. So we have presented at those, so they are aware of nima and very helpful too. They are aware of the initiative. We have consulted with them as well, and we're having ongoing conversations with some of those departments to get them onboarded as well. And I know that's a couple of people who are on the call who are involved and who are helping with that.
Before we move on to the next subject matter, I think I'll just take one more question raised by Ian Chambard. He says the IM mandate asks that there be a capability to deliver and fulfill the IM function within organisations. This will need wide-ranging education to be initiated. Do NEMA have a planned competence framework that includes non-IM as well as IM professionals?
It's a great question as well, Ian. Thank you very much for that. I think what's important is what we've said is to be proportionate. So when you're following these principles, it's to be proportionate to your current capability as well. So we're not expecting everybody to comply with everything all at once. So what we've been looking to support the onboarding organisations on is to have a plan themselves of what they're going to be able to achieve at a certain time. So to have a target and say, you know, it'll take us 6 months, a year, 2, 3 years. And what we've developed and will be being released shortly will be benefits measurement tool, but also a maturity tool as well. There are a number already existing. We are looking at bringing those together. They're to my mind, Ian, they're priority activities. So we will be talking to the task group shortly, and then reaching out to the wider industry, for instance, at Digital Construction Week, to say, we're moving forward with a competency framework. Can you come and help with this? What have you got that's already existing? And for instance, CIBSE would be one of the organisations who would be approaching as well on that side of things. But there is a lot to do, I have to say. So the more that we can get people engaged to say this is what we're needing, and hopefully to offer to be able to help as well, either financially or through resource, will make this fly as quickly as possible. So really trying to build that momentum up.
Thanks for that, Anne. I think we move on to the next subject matter, and if we have time at the end, there are a couple of outstanding questions that we can come back to. But in any event, we will respond to all questions raised after the event if they're not answered in the session. So Anne, over to you.
All right, okay. So the next thing we wanted to update you on is that we've talked about NEMA community before. We've had feedback that it's not really a community. I know everybody wants to be a part of NEMA, but they want to be a part of networking. So we've decided to look at shifting the emphasis onto the networking across our volunteers, across practitioners represented at the moment with the BIM4s and the IM4s, through our ambassadors, linking through with our patrons, the affiliated organisations, and of course buildingSMART UK and Ireland. So what I want to do is to just explore each of those in turn for you. So first of all, with the volunteers, as I've said before, that we would not be existing if it wasn't for our volunteers. They're absolutely vital to our continued existence. I think to a large extent, it's our volunteers who define who NEMA are, what our culture is, our inclusivity, and our acceptance of each other, listening and being collaborative. We've got the vice chairs now who will be facilitating and driving outputs through the volunteers. So what we want is for volunteers to feel that they're contributing positively. They can see what's being achieved, and if necessary, that it's time bound. It may be that a volunteer says, "Look, I can only give you a certain amount of time over the next 6 months," and we can look at, well, what are the activities that are current that they'd be interested in, motivated in, and could help on. So they do certainly contribute across the networks, but also then contributing to the initiative, to back office management, to different projects, helping with stakeholder management. Certainly on the change management piece, this is a massive area that we really want to be focusing on. The skills, the competency, as Ian's just raised, and as I'd already mentioned, the review of the UK BIM framework guidance. And there is so much going on. And I'm delighted that Dave Peacock has come forward to help coordinate on that. So as you come forward as volunteers, we're getting that onto Salesforce. And if you like, we're almost matchmaking those volunteers now to activities which can suit them. So you'll see more of that coming out, I think, as we go forward over the next few months. I certainly think at Digital Construction Week, you should be able to really see and be able to talk to everyone who's at Digital Construction Week about how that's being taken forward. Then we've got what I'm referring to for the moment as the NEMA practitioners. So it's really to get people outside of NEMA to understand that there is the opportunity to cluster around particular areas of interest, but without creating silos. And I think this is one of the things that we were being criticised for, is that if you've got all of these different groups and they're not talking to each other, or if the affiliates don't know what's happening behind those groups, then you're actually doing exactly the opposite of what managing information better, getting rid of silos, collaboration and open work is all about. So a lot of these groups are self-organised. They're welcome to be under the NEMA umbrella, but what we don't want is for them to feel that NEMA is taking control. There's a lot of excellent groups, whether that be BIM for Estates, BIM for Housing Association, BIM for Housing, and the asset management really active at the moment, which is really pleasing to see. BIM for Rail and BIM for Water. It's a really great list that we have there. IM for Legal, I think, is a really important one for those who are needing to understand more about setting up contracts and so forth. We've got a newly formed or forming group, the IM for Power, which is a really great one to see. And we've got some of the regions who are actually still active, so NEMA Wales, NEMA Yorks and Humber. So it's really interesting that although for a while we saw a lot of the having moved to virtual, as people were saying, well, it's not really necessary for us to have regions. Actually, there are some regions now who really want to be getting together. and meeting locally as well. And what we want to do is to be able to complement, for instance, with constructing excellence rather than duplicating, is to work together. And this is why we just feel that now shifting to more networking rather than it being communities, which feels like it has to be rigid and owned by nima, is the right way for us to go. So then we've got our ambassadors. I'm really pleased that Marcia Balvani and Andy Bootle are offering to continue to bring the ambassadors together. It has been quite quiet for a while because as chair and vice chairs, we were really struggling with everything else which was going on. So Marcia, Andy, thank you ever so much for that. It's really important that we emphasise that both UK and internationally based volunteers who we're really grateful to. We've got around 20 subject matter experts at the moment who are well versed in, for instance, the initiative, the framework, 19650. And really what we're wanting of our ambassadors is to be engaging with the audiences, promoting nima. I think what's really important is feeding back on what they learn, what's needed, what nima should be doing to help the industry along. Really important to us are our patrons. Again, we wouldn't be surviving if we didn't have the support financially from our patrons to help deliver our vision. This includes the patrons which come through via the buildingSMART International. We've currently got around 30 businesses. We've got technology providers have their own dedicated group who meet regularly, and Paul has been chairing that along with Marek Suchotli. So thank you very much to both of you. And what we're doing now is that we're exploring, well, what does that mean? So Pam, this is really going back to your question as well, is some patrons are now becoming IMI sponsors. And the IM programme is going to be including patrons event at DCW. Our vice chair coordinator for patrons is Rachel Heaton, who I'm not sure is on the call at the moment, but yeah, do reach out to Rachel if you want to know more. So the relationship that we have of the nima patrons with the IM initiative is really important to us. And I saw Rachel just put her hand up there as well. So good to see you, Rachel. You'll notice on this slide that we have actually provided all of our different sponsors, all of our different patrons, apologies, on the right-hand side there. And then our affiliated organisations. So I'd like to, because I know that we've got some of you on the team, I'd like to give a massive thanks to everyone who's been involved in the affiliates leadership team up till now. So that's Gary Bannon, Gary Morton, John Adams, Fiona O'Brien, James Smith, Tom Alton, Colin Bell, Sarah Keat. I really hope I haven't forgotten anybody. We're constantly talking to new potential affiliates. Recent and ongoing is Association for Consultancy and Engineering and the Industrial Commissioning Association. And the reason why we're now moving to the networking side of things is the affiliates were really saying we feel as though we've been siloed. We want to actually be working more with the practitioners, with the IM4s and so forth. So you kind of have set up these artificial silos. So what we're doing is we're remobilising all this fantastic volunteers to help us on specific activities which can support that. I think the important thing is the affiliated organisations do comprise of membership and trade bodies. That's quite complementary to the Construction Leadership Council and the initiative. They're helping nima to deliver our vision to their members and provide sector feedback. But I think what's really interesting is with the initiative, it's demanding a wider sector engagement. We will be using the initiative and the teams around the initiative to help with that stakeholder management. So it's going to look a little bit different to what it has done up until now, and really drawing on that wider nima network. Then finally, from a networking perspective, I need to thank Casey Rutland, who's chair of the UK and Ireland, along with Emma Hooper and Nick Nisbet as the vice chairs, Rob Jackson, who's also has been so helpful with the UK BIM framework and the website as it was originally, and numerous others for their BS UK and Ireland support. So the volunteers are superb around UK and Ireland, but what we're wanting to do is to really link more of our practitioners, for instance, with the IM4s and BIM4s, with those domains, so really to be able to share practical application of the IFC, IDS, forgive me for falling into acronyms, but fundamentally to support interoperability. What we'd like to see now is to organise domain-specific events. So that might be on the technical side, it might be on infrastructure, it might be on the building side of things. So various things. But one of the things I think we've been most pleased about is that linkage in with BIM for Water. And I know Emma is particularly enthusiastic about what's been developing there. I think I'd like to also mention the manufacturing side of things as well, the manufacturer's side. So I think Trish Macy is here as well. So yeah, really wanting to drive on the digital product passports and how that all links into. So as I say, lots of different activities going on. The UK and Ireland team do attend the buildingSMART international events, for instance, 2025 summits in Singapore and then in Berlin. And from a nima perspective, the vice chair coordinator is indeed Emma. So I think that then brings us to Q&A. I realise that I am running a wee bit late, aren't I, Paul? And you didn't pull me up there, but yes, if there's
only a little bit
questions. If there are any questions, do go ahead.
Nothing's been raised in respect to this section to date. I know we had the question earlier about SIBSI in relation to the affiliated organisations. So maybe then we can grab a little bit of time. If anybody does have questions relating to the wider networks, between now and the end of the meeting, please put them in the Q&A and we'll answer them at the end. There are a couple of questions outstanding on the IMI that we might return to as well. And I noticed Bryn Mannering has asked something, so we might return to that one at the end, and if time allows.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think we'll move on. And Paul, I think it's your turn.
Yep. So Anne's going to drive the slides for me. I'll brief the camera on so you can see. I'm just going to talk for roughly 5 minutes, just give you a quick update on what we've been doing around our communications and events, looking at the website, newsletter, social media and events. So next slide, please, Anne. As most of you will be aware, I think, we essentially in nima have two websites. We have the main website for nima, and we also have the ukbimframework.org website. I took on a responsibility. It got diluted a little bit because of bandwidth issues with other responsibilities for a while. But since I've been able to focus on it, we're now much more focused on creating new content and updating that content more frequently across the sites. In terms of where we're at the moment, we've grown to the point that we're getting around. It's just suddenly gone backwards there.
Sorry, not quite sure.
Yeah, it's that we have on average 34,000 users per annum and about 85,000 page views, which respectively equates to year-on-year growth of 50% and 33% respectively. The shift to Mortar has also opened up a new level of interaction with the UK BIM framework guidance documentation, and Since June 2024, when the platform was first launched, there have been something like 161,000 views of the UK BIM framework guidance by thousands of users there. We're not sitting on our laurels, though. We've set some ambitious engagement targets for the coming year, and to start the process of hopefully improving that engagement, we're going to be refreshing elements of the website, improving the look and feel, and hopefully generating more content along the way. That content, though, is an area where volunteers can certainly help. If you have information that you would like to share with us, we have sections on the website, success stories, for example, but also reports and other resources, which we are more than willing to share when they're an appropriate addition to the material we want to share, perhaps across the broader information management initiative framework as well. So please do consider sharing that with me. Reach out to me or send an email to our info@wearenima.im email address if you're able to help. Next slide, please, Anne. One of the things that I'm delighted that we've been able to reinstigate. Pam did a sterling job when she was looking after the Alliance in getting a newsletter out on a regular basis. And I've been desperately keen to have to reintroduce the newsletter, which we were finally able to do, powered by our Salesforce environment. We started initially with just a tester at the beginning of October, but we're now monthly sending out a short digest of recent news and a look forward to upcoming events over the next 4 to 6 weeks. The January newsletter went out at the end of the month to a circulation list now around about 4,800 strong, and we are performing above the industry average in terms of how many people open or click through on our newsletters. So, again, if you have material that you want to share, material that you think might be useful for the newsletter, contact me, let us know, respond to the contacts on the newsletter. So next slide, please, Anne. And social media is one of our other main focuses. The principal platform that we've been currently focused on has been LinkedIn. We've been growing that a little bit more slowly than the website in terms of followers, but we noted from last year we were very busy when it came to the virtual conference, but we're less busy at other times of the year. So we're now being a lot more regular and frequent in our generation of material, hopefully generating increased engagement. And the AI video campaigns that we've mentioned a couple of times have also seen the UK BIM framework following grow. You might have picked up that we've discontinued engagement through the Twitter platform. It was becoming a little bit too full of trolls, and it was taking time and effort and to respond to some of that traffic. So we've discontinued that. We're experimenting with 1 or 2 alternative places like Blue Sky. But our other major plan for 2025 is to revamp our YouTube presence and potentially to resurrect podcasts. But in both cases, again, we need volunteers. I've been helped by Varun and others in relation to the podcasts, Varun Sony, but it would be good to have other contributors stepping up and saying they'd like to help with videos or they'd like to help with podcasts. So please bear that in mind. I think that's almost the end apart from events. Clearly, we've mentioned the virtual conference. We've had 3 of them so far. The most recent one was obviously the launch of the IMI on the 7th of November. The next virtual conference will be almost exactly a year on. It'll be on the 6th of November 2025, and it will be an opportunity really to look back at what's happened since the launch of the IMI, show the progress that's been made, and look at the next steps going forward for the IMI. In the meantime, we've also instigated the quarterly forums, so an online equivalent to the in-person meetings that we used to have pre-COVID. And as Anne mentioned earlier on, we're really keen that you use this event to highlight subject matter that you might want us to have webinars about. Externally, our focus is going to be on Digital Construction Week. We're looking forward to making some announcements there and to be promoting the IMI very strongly at that event. And again, if you can help either at DCW or any of the other events throughout the year, please step up. We're very keen to broaden the range of speakers and contributors that we have in our panel discussions and things going forward. So please help with that. Oh, and a brief reminder, the final call for speakers for Digital Construction Week closes tomorrow. So if you're just about in time to get your final contributions in. And I think that's my last bit before we move to Q&A. I'll quickly just double check the questions. Isn't anything specific on the comms that I can see. A couple of questions about volunteers. Anne asks, what is the average number of hours that volunteers typically contribute to the IMI nima community weekly or monthly? I think it's very much down to what people can spare. Some individuals, they can contribute maybe a couple of hours, but that can be as helpful, particularly if it's related to a particular project or a particular output. An item of content, for example, might be a useful short piece of contribution. Others contribute, days, sometimes entire days to events and so forth. So I would say there isn't an average number. There is a huge continuum from very short periods to very long periods of time for contributors.
Okay, so I think if we move on to any other business and any other Q&A then.
Okay, I was going to go back to the question that was raised by Bryn, and he was asking about the IMI integrating with ISO 19650 Part 2 certification schemes, and nima pushing for UCAS accredited certification of individual competence. So how does that have a bearing in relation to the IMI?
It's a really good question. It's one that we want to look at. Because I think this could be a helpful way for people to be able to, for organisations to be able to demonstrate that they're fulfilling their internal mandate. What we need to be doing is we're concentrating on the first two steps of onboarding signatories to the call for action and then to the directive, and then discussing with them what it will take for them to prepare and then implement an internal mandate and how they then monitor their compliance with that. So certainly our feeling is that the certification schemes are going to be really important, and that UCAS accredited certification for individual competence will be a part of that. But it is something that we'll need to look at. So I see Richard White has responded to that. And one of the things we do want to be looking at is obviously buildingSMART, have their scheme as well, the PCERT scheme. So there's going to be a really interesting one between organisations and then individuals as well. And we will need to actually look at the both. So there will be more coming out on that, Bryn, but we need help. As I say, we're looking at the implementation plan, what we really focus on. There is a lot to do, So we are going to be dependent on how much we have people coming forward who can help us on that too.
Another IMI related question emanating from Andy Bootle in the Middle East. Can an organisation that doesn't operate in the UK, like ALEC, sign up, bearing in mind that this CLC is a UK focus group?
Oh, a good one. I don't see why not, but we can explore that a little bit more, because the principles don't just come within the UK. From a nima perspective, we've obviously got our international ambassadors as well. So Andy as an ambassador as well, I think that would be a really good one for us to explore and see what the practicalities are of doing that. I've noticed one that Jonathan Hallam will let me work on operational FM for large volumes, found working with big core FM companies hard to embed and then to follow standards. We really want to move into looking at the whole life side of things. You'll be hopefully seeing as the 19650 review progresses that we're really going focusing on that emphasis on whole life. And that actually the process needs to go right the way across into operational. So yes is the answer to that. Again, Jonathan, if you're someone who can help on that, you'll be welcomed with open arms.
There was an interesting question from Sean Foster asking in relation to product manufacturers, is there a specific data template that we're looking to, that nima is looking to adopt? I know that we've had that this is quite topical in the sense that there is a green paper which is talking extensively about digital product passports and a construction library coming to the fore.
Yeah, so I know that Trish is on the call. So Trish is very keen as part of the initiative for us to be looking at that further. So if you're interested and can help, please do reach out and I can link you up with Trish, who is desperate for more interest and more support in this area. But I think we need to move on because we're getting short on time, aren't we now? So for me now, I need to say I was really keen that we had the meeting today, and I'm also want to thank everybody who's been so patient when I've been away with an operation and taking time with recovery. I am about to depart yet again, and I wouldn't be able to do that if there wasn't just such a great team around nima and around the volunteers as well. But I'm going to be backpacking I'm actually going to start Penzance rather than Land's End, but walking Land's End to John O'Groats. It'll be 1,220 miles over 100 days. It's for Alzheimer's Society. I will be walking in memory of my mother who died last July. I really feel I need to do this from a mental as well as a physical perspective as well. And yeah, if you would like to donate, please, I'd be so grateful if you would do. But yeah, I'm afraid I'm not going to be around at DCW and so forth. I'm just so grateful to everybody who I've mentioned, who volunteer and who help with running nima. Really excited about how we're progressing with the initiative. I know there isn't going to be a stall just because I'm not around. I am only one person. nima is about so many, many more people, as is the IM initiative as well. So I would like to say thank you ever so much for attending. Please do save the date for the 22nd May 2025, which will be the next nima quarterly forum. Obviously, I won't be at that, but there will be plenty of others who will be more than capable of filling my shoes. So yeah, look forward to hearing how that goes and all of the events when I get back in July, unbelievably. But Paul, I think that's just about it, unless I've forgotten anything. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Oh, I think
stories.
I think we've covered everything, and Tricia Massey put helpfully some links into the chat about the digital product passports stuff that we were talking about just a moment ago. So thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thanks so much, everybody. Take care, and have a great few months before I get back.
I will close the meeting now and stop the recording.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Thank you very much.